Story 1. I never believed in ghosts or the supernatural. Not until that fateful night when I encountered something that shattered my skepticism and plunged me into a world of terror I could never have imagined. My name is Mark, and I'm a rational man. I work as a software engineer, and my life has always been governed by logic and reason. That is, until the night I decided to visit my childhood home, a remote farmhouse nestled deep in the woods. It had been years since I had set foot in that house. My parents had moved to the city when I was in college, leaving the old farmhouse to gather dust and cobwebs. With their recent passing, I had inherited the property, and the thought of returning to the place of my youth filled me with nostalgia and dread in equal measure. I arrived late in the evening, the sun already dipping below the horizon, casting long shadows over the desolate road that led to the farmhouse. The air was thick with the scent of pine trees, and the only sounds were the rustling leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. The farmhouse, now weathered and worn, stood before me like a relic from the past. It was a 2-story structure with a wraparound porch, the paint peeling and the windows boarded up. As I approached the front door, I couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding, as if the very house itself was warning me to stay away. But I had come this far, and I couldn't turn back now. I fumbled for the key my lawyer had given me and pushed open the creaking door. The interior was shrouded in darkness, and I quickly retrieved my flashlight from my backpack. The beam of light illuminated the dusty, forgotten rooms of my childhood. The furniture was draped in white sheets, and the air was stale with the scent of neglect. Memories of summer spent in this house flooded my mind, laughter, family dinners, and the comforting embrace of my parents. As I climbed the stairs to the second floor, the floorboards groaned underfoot, protesting my intrusion. I felt an overwhelming sense of sadness and loneliness, a reminder that those happier times were gone forever. I chose the bedroom at the end of the hallway as my temporary sanctuary. The room was cold, and I could see my breath in the dim light of the flashlight. I wrapped myself in a blanket and settled into the dusty old bed, hoping that sleep would provide an escape from the melancholy that hung over the house. But sleep was elusive that night. As the hours passed, I was plagued by strange and unsettling dreams. I found myself in a dark forest, the trees closing in around me like sinister sentinels. I heard whispers, indistinct but filled with malice, and the sensation of being watched grew unbearable. I awoke with a start, drenched in sweat, my heart pounding in my chest. The room was in utter darkness, and the only sound was the distant hoot of the owl. I reached for my flashlight, but it refused to turn on. Panic surged through me as I fumbled for my phone, using its feeble glow to navigate the room. As I scanned the room, my eyes fell upon a figure standing at the foot of the bed. My breath caught in my throat, and I couldn't move, couldn't speak. The figure was tall and gaunt, shrouded in tattered rags. Its face, obscured by shadows, seemed to leer at me. I summoned every ounce of courage and stammered, "Who are you?" The figure remained silent, its presence oppressive and malevolent. I could feel its icy gaze upon me, and I knew with a sickening certainty that it was not of this world. With a burst of adrenaline, I leapt out of bed and fled the room, stumbling down the darkened hallway. My footsteps echoed in the empty house, and I could hear the figure following, its footsteps impossibly quiet. I burst through the front door and into the moonlit night, gasping for breath. I dared not look back, but I could feel the figure's presence receding, like a nightmare dissipating with the dawn. I spent the rest of the night in my car, parked a safe distance from the farmhouse. As the first light of morning broke, I ventured back inside, hoping that the horrors of the night had been a figment of my imagination. But the bedroom told a different story. The sheets were in disarray, and the room bore signs of a struggle. It was not a dream, and it was not my imagination. Something had been in that room with me, something beyond comprehension. I decided to leave the farmhouse immediately, to put as much distance between myself and that accursed place as possible. As I drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had uncovered a truth about the farmhouse, a truth that had been buried for generations. I never returned to that house, and I sold it without hesitation. I tried to convince myself that what I had experienced was a trick of the mind, a hallucination brought on by exhaustion and grief. But deep down, I knew the truth. I had encountered something supernatural, something that defied logic and reason. To this day, I can't explain what happened in that farmhouse, and I don't want to. Some mysteries are best left unsolved, some truths best left undiscovered. And as I leave the horrors of that night behind, I can only hope that I never encounter the unknown again, that I can cling to my rationality and leave the world of the supernatural to those who dare to explore its darkest corners. Story 2. The wind howled through the trees, carrying whispers of forgotten secrets as I stood alone in the desolate woods. It was a moonless night, and darkness clung to everything like a shroud. My flashlight cast a feeble circle of light, barely illuminating the path ahead. I had always been drawn to the mysterious, but this venture was different. This time, I was about to experience true horror. My name is Emily, and I was an avid explorer of the paranormal. It all started when I stumbled upon an old journal at a local antique shop. The journal's pages were filled with cryptic symbols and ominous drawings, and it claimed to hold the key to summoning an otherworldly presence. Skeptical yet intrigued, I decided to test its claims in these very woods, where the author had performed the ritual. As I followed the journal's instructions, my heart raced with anticipation and dread. I had set up a circle of candles and inscribed the cryptic symbols in the dirt. The words I had to chant were foreign and ancient, and as I spoke them, I felt the temperature drop. The woods fell silent, as if nature itself held its breath, waiting for what was about to unfold. Suddenly, a gust of wind extinguished the candles, plunging me into complete darkness. Panic set in, but I couldn't give up now. I fumbled for my flashlight and, after a few anxious moments, managed to reignite the candles. That's when I saw her, a spectral figure standing at the edge of the circle. She was ethereal, a ghostly wisp of a woman in a tattered, blood-stained dress. Her eyes, hollow and filled with sorrow, bore into mine. Fear gnawed at me, but I couldn't look away. The journal had warned of her presence, but I had underestimated the terror it would bring. The apparition whispered my name, her voice a chilling echo that reverberated in my very soul. "Emily," she moaned, "you've awakened me. The curse must be broken." "What curse?" I stammered, my voice trembling. She spoke in a cryptic riddle, "The sins of the past bind me to this place, a darkness that hungers for revenge. To break the curse, you must uncover the truth." With that, she vanished into thin air, leaving me alone in the chilling silence of the woods. Fear and curiosity battled within me, and I knew that I couldn't turn back now. I had to uncover the secrets of the past and confront the horrors that lurked in the shadows. Days turned into weeks as I delved into the history of the area. I discovered that the woods had once been the site of a sinister cult that had performed unspeakable rituals in the late 1800s. Rumors of sacrifices and dark pacts had haunted the town for generations, and many believed the curse still lingered. I began to piece together the puzzle, interviewing the town's elderly residents and scouring forgotten archives. The more I uncovered, the more horrifying the truth became. The cult had indeed existed, and their rituals had involved summoning dark forces from beyond. The spectral figure I had encountered was likely a victim of those malevolent practices. As I dug deeper, I found myself plagued by nightmares. Shadows moved in the corners of my vision, and a feeling of dread clung to me like a second skin. It was as if the curse had latched onto me, refusing to let go until justice was served. One fateful night, guided by the spectral figure's whispers, I stumbled upon an underground chamber deep in the woods. The walls were adorned with grotesque symbols, and a sinister altar lay at the center. The air was heavy with malevolence, and I knew I had uncovered the heart of the curse. As I examined the altar, I felt a presence behind me. Turning slowly, I saw the spectral figure once more, her eyes filled with both sadness and gratitude. She whispered, "You've found it, Emily. Now, break the curse. I understood what I had to do. With trembling hands, I gathered the items scattered around the chamber and arranged them according to the ancient ritual. The candles flickered to life, casting an eerie glow on the scene. I recited the words, feeling the weight of centuries of darkness bearing down on me. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and the chamber seemed to come alive. A surge of energy coursed through the room, and I knew I had succeeded. The curse was broken. The spectral figure smiled, her form slowly dissipating into the ether. "Thank you, Emily," she whispered, her voice fading away. "I can finally rest in peace." As the last echoes of her voice vanished, I stumbled out of the chamber, gasping for breath. The woods felt different now, lighter, as if a shadow had been lifted. The curse had been broken, but the horror of that night would forever haunt my dreams. I returned to my normal life, forever changed by the horrors I had witnessed. The journal was buried deep in the woods, far from anyone's reach. Some secrets were best left buried, and I had learned that the hard way. The true horror of that night wasn't the spectral figure or the curse, it was the darkness that lurked within the human soul, capable of unspeakable acts and the creation of curses that span generations. And though I had brought closure to one tortured spirit, I knew that the world held many more secrets, waiting to be uncovered by those brave or foolish enough to seek them out. Story 3. It was a summer evening like any other when my friends and I stumbled upon the abandoned carnival. We were a group of thrill seekers, always in search of our next adventure. That day, we had decided to take an impromptu road trip, and our journey led us to an eerie, overgrown field that held the remnants of a forgotten carnival. My name is Sarah, and I was the ringleader of our small group. Alongside me were Mike, the daredevil, Lisa, the skeptic, and Tom, the cautious one. We were drawn to the carnival by a combination of curiosity and the adrenaline rush that the unknown promised. As we entered the decaying amusement park, the setting sun cast long shadows across the rusty rides and faded banners. The air was thick with the scent of damp wood and nostalgia. It was clear that the carnival had been abandoned for years, its rides and attractions left to the mercy of time and nature. Our first stop was the Ferris wheel, its once vibrant paint now peeling and chipped. I couldn't resist the temptation to climb into one of the creaky, rust-covered cars. My friends exchanged nervous glances but reluctantly followed suit. As the Ferris wheel began to turn with a spine-tingling screech, I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. From our elevated vantage point, we could see the entire carnival stretched out below us. The other rides lay in various states of disrepair, their neon lights long extinguished. The silence that hung over the place was deafening, broken only by the occasional caw of a distant crow. As the Ferris wheel reached its peak, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye, a shadowy figure moving through the deserted carnival grounds. It was a man, hunched and shrouded in tattered clothes, his face obscured by a hood. My heart raced as I pointed him out to my friends. Mike laughed it off, claiming it was probably just a homeless person seeking shelter in the abandoned amusement park. But Lisa and Tom exchanged worried glances, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. We decided to investigate, descending from the Ferris wheel and making our way toward the figure. As we got closer, we realized that the man was muttering to himself, his words unintelligible. He moved in erratic, jerking motions, as if he were in the throes of madness. "Hey, are you okay?" I called out, my voice quivering with unease. The man stopped, his hood turning slowly in our direction. When he spoke, his voice was a guttural whisper, chilling to the bone. "Leave this place. It's cursed." Before we could react, the man sprinted away into the shadows, disappearing into the dilapidated carnival rides. We exchanged nervous glances, unsure of whether to pursue him or heed his warning. Mike, ever the fearless one, suggested that we explore further. Lisa was hesitant, but Tom and I agreed, our curiosity overwhelming our fear. We decided to head toward the dilapidated carousel at the center of the carnival grounds. As we approached the carousel, the air grew colder, and a heavy mist began to settle around us. The carousel's music box sprang to life on its own, emitting a haunting melody that sent shivers down our spines. Its fated horses, frozen in mid-gallop, appeared to be watching us with empty, soulless eyes. I reached out to touch one of the horses, and as my fingers brushed against its cold, weathered surface, the world around us seemed to blur and shift. It was as if we had been transported to a different time, a time when the carnival was alive with laughter and joy. But the illusion was fleeting, and we were soon jolted back to the present. The mist thickened, and the temperature plummeted further. Panic set in as we realized that we were no longer alone. Shadowy figures emerged from the mist, their forms indistinct and their features obscured. They circled us, whispering incoherent words that filled the air with an eerie, spectral chorus. It was as if the very souls of the carnival's long-dead visitors had returned to claim us. We ran, our screams echoing through the night as we fled the haunted carnival. The mist pursued us, clinging to our heels like a malevolent specter. As we reached the entrance, we glanced back one last time, and there, in the midst of the mist, we saw the hooded figure again. He beckoned to us, his voice a mournful wail, "You should have listened." With that, we stumbled out of the carnival and back into the open field, gasping for breath. The mist dissipated, and the temperature returned to normal. We were left with a sense of dread that would haunt us for the rest of our lives. We never spoke of that night again, and we went our separate ways, each of us forever changed by the horrors we had witnessed. The abandoned carnival remained a dark and forbidden memory, a place where the boundary between the living and the dead had been blurred, and where the sins of the past had come back to claim their victims. In the years that followed, the carnival was torn down, its cursed grounds forever sealed off from the world.